Hello, YouTubians. I'm Dave Rubin. This is the Rubin Report. I've got H. Alan Scott. I've got Desi Doyen. I've got Adam Hunter, who just threw his phone for some reason. I don't know why. We have a tremendous show for you, and we got to get right to it because this is the internet and you're a busy person. So we're going to start with everybody's favorite crotchety old man, John McCain. Now, as everybody knows, Rand Paul did something that I think was pretty spectacular. He did a 13-hour filibuster, basically saying that Americans shouldn't be killed on American soil without due process. You know, that seems pretty fair. And then Mr. Old Man John McCain this week called him a wacko bird for something that's pretty patriotic, in my opinion. Where do we start with this? Is John McCain just lost his mind?
I don't think.
H. Alan Scott.
I think he has a great sponsorship deal with Angry Birds. That's why he called it Wacko Birds. I think there's some sort of corporate deal. Republicans are known for that.
Yeah.
You know, there's some sort of involvement there.
So you think he's getting something on the back end?
And he's just an angry old man who can't spend 13 hours listening to Rand Paul be stupid.
Yeah. Oh, get off my lawn! I would actually like to see him upgrade and maybe, you know, update his curse words and the things that he says. Wacko Birds?
Wacko Birds? Like,
where the hell did he come up with that?
Yeah. What do you think of this idea, though, that he's mocking what, in my opinion, was the best thing the Republicans have done in 5 years, probably?
Of course, I think he would be against that because, you know, Rand Paul is making a lot of money fundraising off of this. So first of all, he's making the money and he's getting all, you know, the young kids all excited about it. And it highlights the civil war that's going on in the Republican Party right now. And the old school guys who are, you know, they're okay with the other civil liberties violations that we've been doing overseas. It's just, you know, in this one area, they're not happy with it. So I think it's a major point of hypocrisy with them as well.
Adam, you are new school. What do you think about these old school guys?
I think that McCain calling someone a wacko bird is like Lohan calling someone a hot mess. You know, it's like Octomom saying you're a bad parent. You know, it doesn't really. He does have to update his references, and I think what happened was during the filibuster he felt like he was trapped, and it brought him back to his days in Vietnam, where he couldn't actually get out. He just felt like he couldn't, you know.
It's just a distraction. It's a distraction, honestly. Like literally, I'm with McCain on this one.
Really?
Yeah, Rand Paul, 13 hours. It wasn't a necessary filibuster in any way.
Do you not
I want someone
think
to filibuster for, you know, expanding into more universal health care for Obamacare? I want a Democrat to do that. I don't want Rand Paul talking about drones.
This guy's so left, he makes the Young Turks people look right. That was the most left thing I've ever heard.
Well, that's what I want a realistic reason to stand there and do a filibuster. What you know, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington did. That's what I want, for something good, not for drones attacking New York City that didn't even happen.
This is the place that Rand Paul planted his flag.
It could have been a lot better.
The return of the talking filibuster. You know, last year Bernie Sanders, senator from Vermont, an independent, you know, he also did a talking filibuster that was so beautifully written that it was published as a book. Yeah. Well, we don't talk about that. We didn't really hear about that. It didn't really get pushed throughout the media. But this filibuster that Rand Paul did, again, of which he's raising a lot of money off of, you know, that is something that we hear about. So I find that there's a big disconnect with the things that the corporate media focuses on and that the regular public hears about versus, you know, what's actually going on.
Right. What's a book, by the way?
It's one of those paper things, a lot of words in it.
It's on paper.
It's like tweets in a long form.
It's funny that you mentioned that.
Stole it right out of my mouth. It's a long form Twitter. All right, so you, I can see, clearly not a fan of the concept that Rand Paul went with. Do you two, I'll start with you, Desi, do you believe in what Rand Paul was doing? Just if we were to forget the politics and what you think about him related to abortion or women's rights and gay people and all that, do you think that the filibuster in and of itself was the right thing to do?
I think it was an excellent thing to do because it actually did get that national conversation going. God knows we could use a lot more national conversations about a lot more subjects, but at least on this one thing we're talking about it. And it's really important because at this point we're also talking about the ability of future presidents. Yeah. You know, some people who say, oh, well, it's Obama, so I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with that, but I know people are. But future presidents will have this ability, and if there is no control or discussion about it, then it'll go the way of all the other things, like with the Patriot Act.
Adam, what do you think? Should the government be allowed to just show up at your apartment and drone strike you without serving you a warrant or at least a hot meal?
I would like to believe that they're not just going to take out like 30 people at a time, targeting one person. Yeah. In my apartment. I don't think that Obama's like, oh, get it. I don't think they're going to be that. No one's going to be that careless, is what I think. I think that, you know.
But what
should they be able
the
to?
bad guys were in charge?
If they were able to just get that one person and drone him out and kill him, and sure, why not?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. We're not big on civil liberties here, but that's they're very old school. You know what I mean? Personal liberty and all that. All right, let's move on to something far more important than the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and all that good stuff. Soda and sugary drinks. New York City. Mike Bloomberg this week was about to have his wish come true, which was that they were not going to be allowed to serve sodas over 16 ounces in restaurants, in stores, bodegas, that whole thing. And then at the last second, a judge jumped in and stopped him, said this is not legal, and now Americans can all continue our right to be fat. Where do we fall out on this?
I'm torn, actually, because like there's a part of me that there's a great thing in the piece I read earlier. 9 out of 10 neighborhoods that have the highest obesity rates in New York City also have the largest sale of sugary drinks. So it makes sense that there's a correlation between sugary drinks and obesity, and it's a huge, huge problem.
No pun
so
intended.
like, yes, but at the same time, I really love Fresca, and now Fresca would not be a part of it, but like I love soda and I want to be able to buy it in any form, size that I want at any place because I'm an American.
That's hilarious. So your one example is a soda that wouldn't have even been because it doesn't have real.
It's just, I know, not a good example. Well, but like Coca-Cola. Yeah. I want to be able to buy a Coca-Cola. I get that. So I'm torn. I don't know.
Desi, what do you think?
Well, you know, I understand why Mayor Bloomberg is doing this, because the cost to the state from, you know, chronic health impacts of the obesity crisis that we have, you know, the long-term attempts to deal with obesity and diabetes, you know, especially in children, the childhood obesity epidemic. This is going to cost us a lot of money as a society overall. So I understand why he's doing it. It's just I know that this is the right mechanism for it. There's so many loopholes into it. You know, it has to depend on what the New York City has authority over, and there's some places that they don't have authority over, so it's really going to be a mishmash of how they enforce it.
Contents of the drink.
Yeah, you know, contents of the drink. It's Starbucks. I saw that at one point Starbucks was saying, well, are we going to be including on this too?
So Starbucks was saying they weren't going to do it. They have the money to fight it, perhaps, but now, at least for now, they don't have to deal with it. Adam, you are a fit man. Look at you.
Tried. Not as
so
much as I used
I'm
to.
guessing you don't drink a lot of sugary drinks.
No, I think that if it wasn't for like fat girls, then I'd have a much tougher time in college, you know. And I think that I think that people. I think you need.
Wait, can you just lay that logic out again?
I think that look. Fat girls serve a very good purpose in life. I mean, they're good people in general, but sometimes, like, your girlfriend dumps you, you need to get some ass quickly.
Yes.
Normally, like, you need to get some head. You know, like, fat girls are known to give really good head, and
why are they known? Because they eat a lot? They put a lot of things in their mouth?
I'm sure you're known as well. But I'm saying, so it's one of those things where you need fat people. Look, when I pull up to a fat person, I go, hey, where should I eat? And he points to the restaurant, I know that person's gonna know what the good restaurant is. Like never.
I like that when I pull up to a fat person as if they're an entity.
They're just standing on the street corner.
They say never trust a skinny chef, right? I mean, you've heard that.
Yeah.
So I mean, how are we gonna know what food tastes good?
I'm sure they love it when you do that.
Right, but. Although you do make several good points there, Adam. I think, Desi, you hit on what I thought was the most important part here, although I haven't pulled up to a fat woman lately. The idea that because of now Obamacare, let's say, for example, we're all in this together now. We're all paying taxes into the system that's going to give us health insurance. So if the person next to you is eating poorly, you're going to end up paying for their health care. Yeah. So doesn't that give us all a reason to back things like this, even if it doesn't seem like it adds up?
Yes, I think that, because, I mean, another good point that the law makes is that the largest portion of people who are obese in America are people who are either in middle class or lower middle class or poor. And these are the people who they're forced to buy. I mean, a child after school has a choice of buying a Coca-Cola or an apple juice that costs $2 or a Coke can that costs $1. They're gonna choose the thing that costs $1. And so they're getting obese from that. And because we're paying in with Obamacare into the system, we're paying for that child's then obesity 20 years down the line.
But it's not the soda. They're getting obese because they're not doing anything. They're going home playing video games.
That's part of it.
That's part of it. But I mean, look, I drink a lot of soda. I eat like shit, but I work out and I go to the gym and I try to run as much as I can. That's really the problem, I think. I think that the soda isn't, the kids are just going to drink 2 sodas or 3 sodas. They're going to buy more soda. It's not, they're not going to, withhold from soda because it's 20 ounce versus a 16 ounce or a 14 ounce. So that's
so again, it's that mechanism. You know, is this the right mechanism for it? You know, when you say that we pay into the system for chronic health impacts, we also pay into the system for farm subsidies. You know, we have this corn crop that is pervasive throughout everything we eat, every bit of processed food, and the meat that we eat is raised on corn as well, which is completely unnatural to what they evolved to eat anyway.
Just for people that aren't exactly sure what you're talking about, there's high fructose corn syrup. Fructose, which one is it?
I say fructose.
Fructose, okay, I did it last week too. There's corn in our soda. People don't realize you have a soda, a Sprite, you are drinking corn. That is crazy.
I think
that's not a question. That's
corn healthy?
Well, corn is a great crop. Corn is a fabulous crop. It does all kinds of great things, but the corn system that we have is the problem. There's a great article in The Economist right now that discusses the corn system, how the subsidies that we use and the crop insurance program and various other policies throughout the Department of Agriculture and, of course, you know, big biotech companies like Monsanto, you know, they all pay their lobbyists to make sure they get the kinds of policies that will benefit their product the most. And so you find here with this New York soda ban that the beverage industry is a major fighter for this, obviously because that's their business model. So they would fight it. And when you're somebody like a kid in New York City who only has $1 to spend, the Coke is going to cost you less because it's subsidized by the rest of us.
Thus proving that everything comes down to money once again. We do have to move on, but just for the record, if you're a overweight chick and you're into Adam, his Twitter handle is right down there, or if you're angry at him, his Twitter handle is also right down there. All right. Let's talk about Ashley Judd, because perhaps by the time we get this out, she may have announced that she's running for Congress in Kentucky, where she lived as a child for part of it. She went to University of Kentucky, and she'd be running for the seat that now Mitch McConnell, who's one of the most powerful congressmen we have, and who's also part human, part turtle. He is so he's not happy about that. And the ads, even though she hasn't declared, have already started coming out. Let's take a look at this one.
You know what this country really needs? An independent voice for Obama.
I am committed to President Obama and Vice President Biden. I think he's a brilliant man. He is now able to flower more as the president I knew he could be.
A leader who knows how to follow.
I will go wherever the president wants me to go.
Someone who will never forget where she came from.
And it just clicked. Tennessee is home. And it just clicked.
Kentucky.
And it just is home.
Someone who knows what's good for us.
Obamacare has done so much for us right here in Tennessee.
Someone who shares our values.
I've been progressively and delightfully radical.
Someone from out of state who understands us hillbillies.
I don't know a lot of hillbillies who golf. Hillbillies.
Her own grandmother says she's a Hollywood liberal. But isn't that what we need? Ashley Judd, an Obama-following radical Hollywood liberal who's right at home here in Tennessee. I mean Kentucky.
Her whole family thinks she's a Hollywood liberal. This is her grandmother. She is not going to get a Christmas present this year. I'm pretty sure about that. All right, so that ad, now again, Ashley Judd has not even announced that she's running. That ad was brought to you by the fine folks over at Crossroads for America, which is Karl Rove's super PAC, which I'm pretty sure lost every election that they got involved in this past November. Adam.
Yes.
What do you think about this? Can a Hollywood elitist beat a human turtle?
I think that any buddy that was in the movie Tooth Fairy doesn't constitute as a Hollywood elitist. I think that you have to I mean, her last good movie was, what was it? I mean, her last movie, Kiss the Girls. I mean, that was 15 years ago. So
you think her star quality isn't even high enough to...
I don't think she's a Hollywood elitist. I think she should, but I think that she should be the coach of Kentucky, because she's been at every game. I don't really think that she's, could she win? Maybe. I don't think so. I mean, based on... I don't think she could win. I mean, but she's pretty hot.
Desi, do you think that it takes these, of course, do you think that it takes these high profile, whether they're not A-listers or whether they are A-listers or not, but do you think it takes these high profile people to now run, because a regular person really can't even run for office anymore just because of connections and money and everything else.
Well, a regular person can run. They're just very unlikely to win, especially at the Senate level. I mean, right now, the barriers to entry for a regular person, you know, you have to have like a $10,000 filing fee. I'm not sure what it is for Kentucky, but usually in most states it's several $1,000s, and you have to have a whole apparatus and a petition that shows you have support. You have to basically be able to prove that you can pay for the TV commercials. So in that respect, Ashley Judd, you know, who is a very intelligent woman and has a great resume outside of her acting career as well, I think she would be able to afford it. You may not know this, but she was actually UN, I think, is an ambassador for one of the programs, and I'm sorry I can't remember the name of it right now, but I love the fact that she's even talking about this, because you can tell how much the GOP is freaked out about it.
Well, clearly, because this ad is actually about a month old, and still, as we tape this right now, she hasn't even officially jumped in. It looks like it could happen any moment, and they're already running ads against her. So, hey, John, where do you
I'll start with the
here?
funny. She beat her
This
husband.
better be good.
She went back to her husband. She was able to take down her husband in double jeopardy. Anyone who can do that can take down Mitch McConnell.
Adam, that was the movie reference you were looking for before.
Now, and the serious part, I will say, I think she is a credible candidate. I think she would be an incredibly credible candidate, only because we've seen real people win big offices. Barack Obama being a great example of this. When he won the U.S. Senate in Illinois, before he gave that speech, he was just a regular state representative. He was a common man who was put into circumstances, a sex scandal, not his, but another candidate's sex scandal, that got him to that seat. So he was a regular person that got there, albeit because of circumstances. So it is possible for a regular person to even be elected president, I think. But I do think that we've seen candidates, crazy candidates, get elected. Jesse Ventura, I'm not comparing her to Jesse Ventura, but he's a great example of somebody who's kind of out there. And in a state, in a country now that has Barack Obama as president, that has we're leaning in a unique direction, I think she could easily sneak in there.
She also has the name recognition. I mean, in Kentucky, the Judd family, the Judds are very popular and have been for decades now. So I think she's got the name recognition, and it would be awesome, I think, to see her run against Mitch McConnell, even if she didn't have a snowball's chance in hell, because it would give a chance for the GOP to show just how anti-woman they still are in the campaign that they would run against her.
Absolutely. So how important is it to get rid of this old guard? You know, we were talking about McCain earlier, but McCain and Lindsey Graham, who now may have an openly gay guy running against him in the primary, which I think is fantastic. How important is it to get rid of these old guys? And they're not going to go away quietly, right?
I don't think so. I like Ashley Judd. I think she's very pro-woman and does a lot of great charity work.
Being a woman, women tend to be pro-women.
No, but
not all of them.
Well, not all of them, that's true, but most do.
But she seems like very educated. I would vote for her if I lived in Kentucky.
I'm all about term limits for even senators. Senators in Congress, I think there should be term limits. I understand that sometimes seniority, the Senate is run on seniority, but I think having someone in there for 40 years just creates this establishment that then doesn't get anything done. It creates situations like, well, Rand Paul, but Rand Paul isn't a part of that. Rand Paul's new, but
I am too.
For anything, even for the president. I think if a guy's doing a good job, keep him there. Like if Bill Clinton would have actually stayed in, and then George Bush had. I mean, imagine. I mean, there might not have
happened.
Now, I'm guessing you're not for term limits.
I am not for term limits.
Really?
Yeah, there's some studies that show that when you put them in place in states, that they actually increase the power of party bosses, because that means that people have to then move around. You know, they're like, oh, I'm term limited out of this, so that means that the party boss then has more power over who does get put up into these primary elections and then on to what happens in the actual office, because people don't have that institutional memory. They don't remember what happened before, and it takes them that much longer to learn the job before they're actually effective in it. So it's an interesting, I think the problem that you're talking about is money in politics. You know, that if we didn't have the corruption of money throughout the campaigns and the lobbying when you do get to elected office, that's where the issues actually lie, and that term limits wouldn't necessarily save that.
That's why I'm actually only half kidding when I say this, but I think politicians should only be allowed to run once, because then they wouldn't spend the second half of the first time looking forward to the second part.
But Abe Lincoln lost like every election before he became president. So,
True.
So
there's that.
Look at you busting out a Lincoln reference.
See, there you go.
I can't argue against Lincoln.
that
Nobody
would be
will
the
happy
counter
about
to that argument.
All right, we got to move on. North Korea, Kim Jong-un. He he wants to launch a preemptive nuclear strike on America. He's not happy with us because of some military stuff going on over there. They just ripped up the truce with South Korea, which I guess means the North Korean-South Korean war is back on, so you know, I guess the Korean vets are going to be in some trouble. What do we think about this? Because it seems crazy. Like, everyone was sort of laughing. I was watching mainstream news. Everyone, oh yeah, North Korea is going to nuke us, you know? And everyone's laughing about it, but should we take this kind of stuff seriously?
I think Kim Jong-un announcing that we're going to be at nuclear war, or he's going to have nuclear war against the United States, is like Cher announcing she's going to retire. It's never actually going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, we're not ever going to get to that point. So I am fascinated by this man. I'm fascinated by this country, and I think I totally am in favor of the sanctions being put again. And I also think it's really interesting that China's going along with these UN sanctions, which is telling in terms of their...
They're closer to where the nuclear material is.
Well, yeah, but even then, I mean, I think China is even learning, as probably because of money, but they're learning that it doesn't benefit them to keep supporting this country. They're trying to kill out this country, and the country's letting themselves die, I think. I mean, Kim Jong-un is killing his people, and China's now realizing we need to abandon ship on you guys. I mean,
what do you make of this kind of like over-the-top rhetoric? They're obviously, first off, they don't have missiles that they can attach this stuff to, so everyone's saying at best they could create some sort of, you know, dirty bomb situation. Yeah. But what do you think of just the rhetoric and the level of, you know, saber rattling and all that?
Typically, you know, it's discussed as, well, you know, they're just trying to get more attention, you know, because when they do these huge threats that, you know, that saber rattling, like you said, that they actually then get the United States to come sit down and, okay, give us some more aid, give them some more money, help them to just basically get the attention that they want. And now that, you know, Kim Jong-un, I think as it is this time, it's hard to keep him straight, that he's actually trying to cement his position in the media at home and abroad as well. I think it's really interesting that China is getting involved in this. It's like a psychological thriller in a way, because you get to find out this crazy guy, and why is he doing this? Because he knows he can be wiped off the map. So.
Yeah. And ironically, and I think this is what you were alluding to, China can't have us get nuked because then they wouldn't be able to call in the debt.
Exactly.
So, Adam, I have a feeling that you think that this has something to do with Dennis Rodman. Am I right?
Well, I heard that after hanging out with Rodman, they're going to be both on Celebrity Rehab next year. But I was going to say, who would have thought that a Korean guy's missile couldn't reach its destination because they have the small penises.
Okay, small penis. Okay. It's the Twitter feed. Adam Hunter the comic?
Adam Comedian.
Adam Comedian.
But I was a big fan of this guy's music with Gangnam Style. I don't know why.
I just think it's telling that our president's hanging out with Jay-Z and he's hanging out with Dennis Rodman. Like, you know, we're definitely winning in this situation on every front.
Well, we gave him Dennis Rodman. What more does he want?
What more?
Would you want him to stay?
Well, you know, it's funny. I was watching Celebrity Apprentice a couple nights ago, and Dennis Rodman is now on Celebrity Apprentice. And despite the lunatics that he's on that show with, like Gary Busey and the rest of these overly plastic surgery people, he still comes off as the craziest one. And that's the guy that we sent with the Globetrotters.
It's like the Lakers having like Ron Artest as a normal one.
Right,
like
exactly.
World Peace is the normal one. That's how bad Kobe and Dwight Howard are.
What do you guys make of that? That we send these people? I mean, we literally sent Dennis Rodman and the Globetrotters to North Korea to somehow.
No, it was
the State Department was very clear saying that
they
did not have anything to do with this.
The
State Department was.
How does one get to North Korea?
They were doing a documentary on HBO.
Yeah.
And like the Harlem Globetrotters were going to the Philippines and doing this whole thing. They were following them around or something like that, and they ended up in Korea. I'm not sure exact, but I know that it was part of an HBO show.
It was money.
Well, I guess the point here is that we're talking about nukes and Dennis Rodman in the same story, and that's bizarre.
I think that North Korea and South Korea should have a big game of Dance Dance Revolution.
I think
because
that's great.
if you go to the arcade, it's all Asian people. They're just dancing on that, and I think that dance diplomacy would.
I would love to see Hillary Clinton do that. That'd be so much fun.
I knew you were going to get a Hillary Clinton.
I had to.
Hillary
Oh, by the way, back to like four topics ago.
Point on this
one. Four topics ago. Different one. If a terrorist is on U.S. soil, the drones, I don't mind. Not U.S. citizens droning attacks. Just to get, because if it was a foreign terrorist hanging out at like Applebee's, I wouldn't mind a drone just fucking.
But it depends on what the definition of combat is.
Precisely. That's why it's who do you leave all this stuff up to? That's where the real discussion about all this is. But we have to move on.
I'm not going to go there.
Google Glasses, people. Google. If you're using your cell phone to text and tweet and make calls, that's old school already. Glasses. We're all going to be wearing this pair of $1,500 glasses that is going to record everything you do, and you're going to be texting from your glasses and watching videos and uploading them and downloading them. Google put out a video. Let's take a look.
Okay, Glass. Record a video. This is it. We're on in 2 minutes.
Okay, Glass. Hang out with the Flying Club.
Google photos of tiger heads.
You ready? You ready?
Right there. Okay, Glass. Take a picture.
All right, so this wonderful video, you're going to wear these glasses, suddenly you'll want to jump out of a plane and do all kinds of stuff that you normally wouldn't do. But I really, truly believe this is going to be the worst thing ever. Our privacy, the little bit of privacy that we have left, is going to suddenly disappear because everyone you talk to is going to be recording you at all times. Desi, what do you think?
Well, actually, when I first read about this, the first thing that popped into my mind is that that would violate California wiretap law. You are not allowed to videotape people without their consent and then post it. I mean, that's the whole thing about the James O'Keefe hoax videos with Acorn. You know, there was a settlement that Acorn worker got because James, well, he wasn't criminally prosecuted. He got immunity to give up the unedited tapes. But that's against the law.
Don't you think that Google, just because of their money and influence, will somehow, they're going to say it's not videotaping, it's, you know, digitally.
They'll probably try to get away with it in some fashion. It's not like they don't have lawyers to do that, or lobbyists. But, you know, it's not against the law in all states. You know, that's specifically what's against the law in California is that you must have explicit permission to do so and to post it. So that would be an interesting legal issue about that. The other part about that that really gets to me is that the Google spokesman in the link that you sent to me, she said that behaviors and social norms will develop over time.
I have that quote here. I'm glad you read it. Okay, incredible. I think this is incredible that Google's saying we're going to put out something that is going to so shift the way we all act and the way we all behave that you're just going to have to join us for the ride, and you have no choice.
And we'll clean up the mess later.
Yeah, now, hey, John, you're the only one here with glasses, so I feel like you're the expert.
all of you right now.
Yeah, you're the expert here, so take it away.
I got to talk to privacy real quick. I don't mind the idea of somebody taping me, not because I like attention, but because I feel like that's where we're going. That's not that they're not commenting on, well, they might be commenting on me. I don't know. We live in that world now. The world is changing, just like when people were fearing what telephones would do or what electricity would do. This is a part of that, that we shouldn't just be fighting it. We should be acknowledging it, definitely setting up laws that protect people like the California law, but we should be acknowledging that changes are happening and then working that into the system where we feel comfortable in our democracy. I don't think we should just be saying no to it. But I will say, the quote that you read about Google, it's also the owner of the bar said, "I'm a thought leader." That's a weird quote.
Yeah, so
that someone calls himself
let's get to that. So we jumped ahead here. So there is a bar in, where is it? In Seattle, where the bar owner has already said, even though this stuff isn't even on the market, it's not even coming out till the end of the year, the owner of the bar has said, our bar, you know, our patrons are here for privacy, not to be recorded. We're banning this thing that doesn't even exist. We're preemptively banning it. Everyone's into preemption these days. Adam, do you want these glasses? What are you going to do with these glasses?
I'm usually wearing beer goggles anyway in a bar. So there was, but there's a part of, I mean, then I was thinking that like my mind goes to like, all right, now my girlfriend's going to try to see if I'm cheating on her, you know, by having her friend wear them to like spy on people. You know, and then, you know, there's a whole thing of like, okay, let's say you go to a bar and you hook up with a chick who's not attractive because you're drunk. You could Photoshop her the next day in your head, you know, oh, she was the hottest girl. But now with these glasses, there's no Photoshopping. You're actually going to see how ugly the person was.
It's eternal sunshine in the spotless mind happening.
There are so many layers of issues here that I didn't even think of when I was doing my research for this. Incredible. What do you guys think? Does any of this stuff make us happier? Now, look, I say this as an addicted tweeter. I love Twitter. I'm on it all day. But does any of this make us happy or actually connect us more? We think it all connects us.
There's a difference. You're on Twitter because your job is to be a social commentator and you want your own TV show and this is your job to get fans and that's how you want to spread to the masses. You have a reason to be on Twitter.
Okay.
There are people on Twitter all day, I'm eating a sandwich, you know, look, it's nice out, I'm going to bed. I mean, and those are people who should not be on Twitter because, I mean, not to be a judge, but it's like, come on. I mean, they're just avoiding everything. There is a whole level of like, I don't care what, like I went on Instagram, do Instagram, I'm looking at people's food. Like, I wouldn't, if I was, if I was on a
if
date
you were
with
with them, you wouldn't want to look at their food.
No, why do I want to see your lunch?
No, I disagree. I think it's a part. I agree that people shouldn't be tweeting about their food. I'm definitely against that. But I do think that, and this is from a personal experience, but when I was diagnosed with cancer, there's a conversation happening with people online who are tweeting about their food, who then see something like I'm tweeting about my own situation, and then they're able to connect in a way that is so far beyond it just being my job as a writer comedian. It's like,
but once again, you're connecting with people on a different level. Same with him. Okay, it's a serious thing, but there are people all day long who are like, yo. And that's it. That's all they write is yo. And you're just like,
well, they have that freedom to do that, I think.
Quantity versus quality, you know, it's not really our place to judge that.
Yeah. We all get paid to judge.
Well, you can judge it.
That's why we're here.
We're doing it.
I mean, well, yes, you can judge it, you just can't stop it.
They have the right to do that.
Yeah, they have the rights to do that, you just don't have to look at it. Or
well,
follow
Desi,
it.
what do you think about this idea that is any of this connecting us more, ultimately? Whether the people are just putting out food pictures or they're saying something really deep and profound. I mean, is it actually connecting us, or are we now all going out to eat and sitting at our phone the whole time, taking pictures of our phone, and we forget who we're talking to?
Yes and yes, actually. I think it does connect us more, but it does tend to connect us to people who are more like-minded and keeps us in our little silos where we don't actually interact with other people so much. Now, it does keep us connected with those people, you know, keeps me connected with my family. I love that. But, you know, when you get into these silos, you know, this is how we get into the Fox News brain, where we have all these people who studies show, you know so little about actual facts in proportion to how much they watch Fox News.
Right, and they're just reinforcing the same ideas.
So, you know, it can help, it can also hurt, you know, it's sort of a two-way street. What interests me more about the Google Glass issue is just the privacy. I mean, I know we've given up so much of our privacy already that people don't know what's happened, but over in the European Union, they have much stronger controls over privacy and your content and your data and how companies can use that. We don't have those protections here, so I think that I'm glad we're talking about it, but I don't know that we'll be able to talk about it before abuses begin.
I'm being selfish, okay? As a comedian, if I'm wearing it on stage and I can look at people's faces are sometimes hilarious because they get offended or they're booing or they're laughing, to then go, look what I'm looking at, I think that's pretty cool. In that regard, but then there's also like.
But when they're all sitting there wearing the glasses, staring at you and tweeting out every bad joke,
that's it. But I've been to some cool like orgy type parties that you know, that those would be kind of cool to have. Like, I mean, I have a pretty cool life sometimes. There are times that I do some cool shit.
My mother watches this.
I want to hang out with you more.
Did you brought me to those parties? What do you?
Well, then you know what? This is the perfect segue to start talking about porn. But before we do that, I want to remind you guys that bonobos.com is my official outfitter. All these fancy shirts that you guys have been commenting on, I get them over at Bonobos. And if you use code TRR20, TRR20, you can get 20% off your first purchase. And now to the porn. The European Union, they are talking about banning not only porn, but all kinds of, you know, sort of quote-unquote offensive material. And a lot of this is coming out of Denmark, but it would obviously span all of the European Union. And it's hard to say what is porn, what is offensive, who's going to decide on all this stuff. I can't start with you, Adam, because I know, Desi, who should decide what is pornography? You know, they're doing this because they say that they want to protect the image of women and stop.
I think they called it eliminate gender stereotypes that demean women. And I was like, oh, really? So you're going to ban porn because it's worked so well in Muslim countries.
Exactly. Right. If you don't get some of that sexual stuff out, it's fertile ground.
Somehow that's going to increase or elevate the status of women in that society, and that's just bullshit.
Yeah. Do you think it's just an endless slippery slope that no matter what you do to kind of curtail pornography or offensive images, that automatically nothing good can come out of this because you just keep going?
Well, I think that the definition of pornography is the problem. I mean, the U.S. Supreme Court has tried, and they said, well, you know, I know it when I see it, and that was determined to be not good enough of a standard, really, when you think about the expansion of internet porn, for example. So, you know, I understand the idea behind what they're trying to achieve with this, but it's the absolutely wrong mechanism because there's no way to understand who's going to define it, how they would legislate it, how they would enforce it. You know, there's so many issues that, yeah, it's a slippery slope, but it's just also, I think, a boondoggle of enforcement.
Absolutely.
People, yes, I'm totally not in favor of banning of porn in any capacity
I
whatsoever.
knew it was going to be hard to find guests who are going to be like, yes, get rid of the porn.
Who wants to ever get rid of the porn? But I will say that there are something, like for example, Iceland is the country that's really leading this charge. And Iceland is taking note from how China bans from users from visiting certain websites.
They literally want to use the same software.
That is
China
not
is
a
using,
country we should be following. No country should ever be emulating, ever. China. And then on top of that, the country or the party that is supporting or is against the ban of porn is the Pirate Party from Sweden. Like, how ridiculous. Does it? How can anyone take anybody serious? No wonder Europe's in such a mess.
Pirates aren't for porn?
Well, but they're called the Pirate Party.
They're called the Pirate Party. That's ridiculous.
Like when they are. You know?
And it's Iceland. Iceland is the shrinkage there. That was like I was going to do a joke about shrinkage, but I'm not going to do that now because you did the dick joke.
Adam, I'm going to go intellectual with you on this one. What do you think that maybe the European Union is actually too big because the sexual hang-ups they may have in France may be very different from the ones they may have in Belgium or in Iceland, et cetera, so that maybe you can't legislate for this giant beast?
You know what? I will actually take the other. Like, I think that obviously, you know, porn, there's a market for it. It doesn't. Sometimes people need it. It's a release. It's a fantasy. It is what it is. But there is a certain element where there is a dark element of porn where like it's like, you know, teenage kids, you know, or bondage, or girls getting shit on, or whatever, and like that, I think that might
be making a point here.
That might be too much. There is an element of like, okay, it becomes less artistic and more just like, and that you have to be careful with that. When it crosses the legal line.
Not illegal. I mean, of course, underage is illegal, but if someone wants to get shit on, they have the right as a citizen of at least the United States to make a film of them getting shit on. So I think it should be the same in the European Union, and I do agree it shouldn't be a European Union.
But if the goal is to protect the children, then just don't keep the kids out of porn. Like, don't do porn with children. There isn't, but like there is underage porn. I think obviously that's no one, you know, and if that's the goal, then get rid of the underage porn. But don't do, you know.
Well, let's get a little bit back to what the purpose supposedly of this bill is, which is to protect the image of women. Do you think that porn actually contributes to negative images of women?
My girlfriend wants to watch porn all the time. I mean, she's the one who a lot of girls like porn.
Don't move to Europe.
That's first of all, European porn is the craziest porn out there.
German porn.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like, German porn is like literally. No, I actually have a friend who does porn.
Yeah,
and he says German porn is the one area of porn that porn actors in the U.S. will never ever go to. It's like they are crazy. They do more than just shitting on.
Wow.
But,
so maybe as an American here, I've been watching such vanilla stuff that I really can't comment on the. Desi, you did not. Now, you were signing up for 3 comedians talking about porn.
Look, she seems like a pretty liberal girl. Am I right? You've watched.
I don't have a problem with women in porn. You know, I can see where it's coming from.
And you've watched porn before.
Yeah, I mean, I know what the psychologists are talking about when they say that it demeans women and exploits women. I'm just going to go right over that.
She's a pro. That was good.
The point that I think that I would like to make is that one psychologist that I read specifically referring to this, she said, you know, porn is a result of gender stereotypes. It is not the cause of gender stereotypes. So that will not have the effect that they're hoping for it to have.
The porn I like to watch is like the dancing bear. Have you seen that? Like a guy comes in dressed up as a bear. He's a stripper, and like all these chicks are just taking turns on him and stuff. Like to me, that's pro-woman. You know, that's all like.
It sounds anti-bear. Actually, I don't know if it's pro-woman. It's definitely anti-bear.
I do think it
Don't
degrades
call
women.
PETA
I mean, of course it does, but so does so many things in our society, and that's part of the problem. Like you said before, that it starts with. Porn becomes from sort of stereotypes. It's not creating more stereotypes.
And
well, before we devolve this conversation any further and then people start clicking over to porn, I want to thank my guests, Adam Hunter, Desi Doyen, H. Alan Scott, and I'm going to let you guys pimp yourselves out because I find the guests are much better than that when they get to talk about themselves. H. Alan, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at H. Alan Scott, and if you're in Los Angeles on March 28th, you can see me at Meltdown Comics on Chemocation Live.
Excellent.
Nice.
Yeah.
I am the co-host and managing editor of the Green News Report, a radio progressive show on energy and environment. You can find me on Twitter at Green News Report and on the web at greennews.bradblog.com.
Adam.
Adam Comedian on Twitter. If you're a UFC fan, MMA Roasted, AdamHunter.com. I do shows every night of the week. And then I have a podcast on the Sideshow Network called Chokes and Jokes, and another one called Adam Hunter's World. So I have 2 podcasts going out.
All right, well, we did a little of everything here. We talked about old politicians, we talked about new technology, and of course we talked a little porn. I thank you guys for watching, and we got a lot to talk about when the camera shut off, so we'll see you next week.